Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me, as always, are my friends and colleagues, BJ Cunningham and Anthony Dabbundo. And gentlemen, we are at the top of the stretch of the Premier League season, but we have a full slate of games ahead of us this weekend, starting with the 7:30 a.m. kickoff on Saturday between Arsenal, they're plus 115, hosting Manchester United, the foils of the entire league right now. They're plus 245. The draw here is plus 250. Man, what a good bet I made on United money line against Liverpool. That will go down as one of the top ones for me on the season. But this match, it has some jeopardy to it. Both these teams will fancy themselves as a part of the race for the top four. This is how it sets up right now. Spurs 57 points in 32 games played, same as Arsenal. Spurs ahead right now on the tiebreaker, and then United 54 points from 33 games played. So they have one less than the two teams they're chasing. So this is a must-win game for United if they do fancy getting themselves back into the race. I do think that this game the line looks about right. It's just impossible to really have any feeling for United from a betting perspective. I would be closer to the Red Devils here in what could be a buy low spot especially after Arsenal had a rousing win over Chelsea, but it's just really hard to get back on that horse. Anthony, before we go to BJ, what do you have for this one?
I don't have a ton. I don't love the entire weekend, to be totally honest, but this match being the headliner, especially, it's two teams that I don't really know what to make of at the moment. I mean, I thought Arsenal were pretty good today against Chelsea. They were clearly the better team over 90 minutes, and it didn't feel that way in the first half. You know, the first goal was very fluky, and then Chelsea kind of controlled the play, but they didn't really create them any chances. Only had them at 0.78 expected goals. So the Blues weren't exactly creating a ton, and the defensive miscues kind of helped Arsenal. And so I go back and forth on what to make of this match. But that being said, I don't know how you bet United at the number. I mean, the number is suggesting that Arsenal and United are about even teams. I don't really think that's the case. I think Arsenal's better. I've got Arsenal rated a little better. I do show a little bit of value on Arsenal, so I certainly lean that way if I'm forced to play it. But I still don't trust this team defensively, because what we saw today is that they're still prone to mistakes. And, you know, Nuno Tavares had a decent game today, I thought. But if United has Sancho back, we don't know the health status of Paul Pogba. We also don't know if Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be back after tragic loss of his son. So there's so much in the air that for now, I think I'm staying away here, but definitely a lean toward Arsenal at the current number. And, I'm glad that BJ's back in on the Gunners. He's wearing his quarter zip for those of us who can't see the pod, because it's a podcast, but he's back in, which I'm glad to see after their rousing win today.
Yeah, reminder, you can watch the show on YouTube if you prefer that, and you can see BJ in his beautiful Arsenal tracksuit here. He usually is wearing a Brighton kit when Arsenal's not going well, but look at that smile.
The Arsenal kid is back.
The Iowa twinkle in his blue eyes. BJ, I saw in the notes that we do before the podcast that you were leaning towards Arsenal, which hasn't really been the case for you, I feel like, for a while now. But you're back in both the wallet and the heart.
Absolutely. Arteta revolution is back on. We're tied with Tottenham. This is a massive match. I mean, this is really, really, really big for Arsenal. But I mean, Anthony mentioned, how do you bet United, not at this number, but really at any number right now? I mean, they look so disorganized, disjointed. They just look like they have no plan whatsoever. And they mentioned on the broadcast, but you have, and this has been the case all season long, but you have individuals pressing, not a team pressing. So what happens is you get a lot of individuals who are coming up there and pressing, and then that just leaves wide open areas. Harry Maguire got caught twice in no man's land, and you see him just pointing at other people like, what are you doing? Well, it's because nobody is pressing as a team, and nobody really knows what they're doing. So yes, United can get saved by Cristiano Ronaldo and some of their better attacking players when they play lower quality sides, but against the big six, it becomes a real problem. And it was very evident on Tuesday. So for the season against the big six, United has a minus 8.7 expected goal differential in 8 matches and are allowing 1.7 expected goals per 90 minutes in those matches. That is a clear sign that they are not at the level of the rest of the big six. Also, Anthony mentioned that the form since the calendar turned to 2022, Arsenal has a plus 0.63 expected goal differential per 90 minutes. United sitting at only plus 2.4 expected goal differential per 90 minutes. So Arsenal has clearly been the better team since the calendar turned to 2022. And the big thing that I think for Arsenal is Tomiyasu might be back for this one. He's currently questionable. I agree with Andy Tavares. He played fine, but once again, it was one of his mistakes that led to a goal, which has happened pretty much every single match so far. So if Tomiyasu comes back and Cedric Soares can play on the other flank, that is huge, huge for Arsenal defensively, and having Ben White and Gabriel in the center there. So, I mean, Arsenal's been really good defensively also since the calendar turned. Only 0.91 XG allowed per 90 minutes. They only allowed 0.66 expected goals to Chelsea on Wednesday. So just a couple defensive mistakes. So I have Arsenal projected at minus 105. I'm finally showing some projected value on them. And I think we really have to question where the motivation level is with Manchester United, because they did not look ready. They did not look like they were motivated or even wanted to be at Anfield on Wednesday. And Bruno, Fernandes said it afterwards. He goes, they're battling for trophies. We're battling for nothing right now. So they're clearly out of the Champions League race. I mean, if they win this one, they're technically back in it, but if they lose this one, you have to start questioning motivation with Manchester United. So I do like Arsenal at the number at plus 115. If Tomiyasu is back, that's a huge, huge boost for the Gunners. And I really think that they're going to smash United at the Emirates on Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think that this match there is going to be like, this is United's last chance. So I'm not terribly concerned about the motivation for this one. Like you said, if they do lose this one or even draw it, I think then they're basically having the rest of the season as a zombie season. There'll be a zombie team. And it could turn toxic before Erik ten Hag comes. Anthony, you wanted to get one more word in before we moved on?
Yeah, I think it's just a general soccer betting thing. Like, don't fall in love with form. We talked about this during the midweek pod when we said, look, like Arsenal lost 3 in a row. They lost 4 out of 5. But you look at the underlying numbers, they weren't that bad. They just had some bounces go against them. They were a little worse, but they weren't terrible. Like, oh my God, the sky is falling. United have been like, oh my God, the sky is falling bad. There is a difference there. And that's the main reason we use expected goals. Like if you looked at just the results, you'd say, oh, Arsenal coming into this game, 4 out of 5 loss, Chelsea looking great. But that's not really true necessarily. And now you're looking at it, you're like, okay, Arsenal, they kind of righted the ship, probably deserved a good result to go their way. And United, I mean, barely scraping by Norwich on XG, getting absolutely hammered at Liverpool. It's a definitely concern. So I lean Arsenal.
All right, we'll move on to a 10 a.m. kickoff between Man City minus 900 prohibitive favorites hosting Watford. They're 20-1. The draw here is plus 950. City's win. I was watching Everton for the most part, but when they were staggered start time, so I had a pretty good eye on City. And for the first half, it really looked like Brighton was going to be able to get that done, get a 0-0 across the line. And then that second half was just, I mean, City were fantastic and held Brighton overall to 0.12 expected goals. And boy, I think what's interesting here is like what Brighton did is exactly what Watford's going to try to do, which is just defend like hell and hope to keep City to nothing, and then maybe get lucky with a goal. And Watford is rungs and rungs below Brighton on the ladder. So not too much faith here, though. I could see City having trouble getting the first one, but after that happens, which does feel like kind of an inevitability, they should start going into the back of the net. And Watford just isn't the type of team that should scare City on the counter. They're averaging only they're one of the worst offensive teams in the Premier League, I should say, and they're averaging 1.1 expected goals for the last 3 matches, which were against decent opponents. But it's just they're not going to ever, like, that's their ceiling. They're not going to break the bank there. So nothing for me here. Don't trust City to break them down enough to cover the alt lines. And don't trust Watford at all. So passing here. BJ, what about you?
Yeah, I'm also passing. The one thing I'll say about Watford, I mentioned this last week, they obviously lost in the final minutes to Brentford, but they've been really underrated under Roy Hodgson. So minus 15 actual goal differential in his 12 matches in charge, only a minus 4.1 expected goal differential. Now, that type of positive regression is not going to come against a team like Manchester City. I mean, it might, who knows, but for a team like Watford, who cannot play through pressure, who are going to try to sit back in a 4-4-2 and just hope to God they can get some type of counterattack. It's really troublesome. So I'm at the stage with City right now that I'm just passing when they're playing smaller sides. I just have no interest in betting overs, unders, spreads with them. They're just too ball dominant right now, and they've been creating a ton of chances for me to lay off playing unders. So I am ultimately just passing on this match.
Anthony, anything for you here?
Yeah, I think it's a good live under spot. The total's 3.5. If you get an early goal, you might get like a live under 4. I'm in. Like, I just don't think City need to run up the score, and they don't really play a style that leads to running up the score. I know they've had some crooked numbers against Watford in the past, but like you mentioned, Watford have defended relatively well under Hodgson. They've been a little unlucky. They could get a bounce or two their way to get a goal even, but I'm not betting the team total over. Not there for me. 135, not quite good enough on the road. Plus 135, that is. So this is an easy pass.
We will move on to Norwich City, the only team below Watford in the standings. There, plus 265. Hosting Newcastle, plus 115. The draw here is plus 235. When you consider where they are and who they are, Norwich is not in that terrible form. They're coming off an impressive loss to Manchester United, in which they probably should have got a point. Then they had to win over Burnley. And then before that, the clean sheet draw against Brighton. So this team is still fighting. They're doing, they're playing, I guess, loose, no pressure on them. They're done and dusted. So I actually don't hate it at home, plus 265 against this Newcastle team that I think all three of us believe is a little bit overrated. But at the same time, we keep losing against them. But I feel like this, of all the games on the board, when you count up every single bet that's made on the Premier League across the world this weekend, this would be the one with the lowest amount of bets on it, and for good reason. So it'd be Norwich or nothing for me. Anthony, what do you have here?
Yeah, Newcastle beats me again. That's 2 out of 3 weeks I bet against them, and they won 1-0. And they were the better team today. Completely dominated the first half. I didn't actually get a chance to watch the match because there was too much going on between the other three. But I thought, looking just through the box score, I think it was 8 shots to 0 until Palace registered their first shot near the end of the first half. So that's an impressive ball control performance, possession performance from an Eddie Howe team. We haven't seen a ton of that from Newcastle. It's Norwich or past for me too. I still don't believe that this team is that good, but they keep winning every game 1-0, or 2-1 at the death. So maybe they are. And that, maybe Norwich gets a goal, and that's where you look. Newcastle will overdue to concede one by now, given the chances they've allowed. Palace did manage to get 10 shots in the second half when they were chasing the game. So clearly a sign that, there's still some vulnerability with them. But yeah, this is another stay away on a pretty, this probably is the worst Saturday morning card of the year. I don't think we've had a worse Saturday 10 a.m. slate than the 3 we've got here.
On that note, we'll talk about Leicester City and Aston Villa. Leicester is plus 180, Villa plus 160 on the road. The draw here is plus 240. Leicester coming off a draw against Everton at Goodison Park, in which they played a pretty strong 11. I'm assuming they will rotate a bunch here as they look ahead to Roma in the Europa Conference League semifinals over the week on Thursday. This will be their 6th game in 16 days, Leicester. So then you're looking at 7 in however many, 7 in like 20 something, 22, 23 when they end up playing Roma. So it's just been a jam-packed schedule for them. Villa, on the other hand, they haven't played in 2 weeks and are coming off 4 consecutive losses, but the XG differential in those results is not terrible, and they just haven't really been playing for much. They're one of like 3 or 4 teams left in the entire league that has not had a meaningful game in quite some time. So once again, like Anthony said, it is a pretty ugly card, and this is the one that I have no interest in and no lean. BJ, you do think there is one angle you can take though?
Yeah, this is the second time I've been really surprised by a line with Aston Villa. A couple weeks ago when Aston Villa was a road favorite against Wolves. Now they're a slight road favorite at Leicester. And I think the market just really doesn't like Leicester right now. And it's for 3 reasons, essentially. Is first, like you mentioned, Michael, they've been playing a ton of soccer over the last few weeks. They are in a look ahead spot with the Europa Conference League on Thursday. And they've been somewhat of a luck box over that time span. I mean, last 2 months, they're +2 actual goal differential and a -5.6 expected goal differential. So with all those arguments, you could say, yes, I want to fade Leicester, but do I really want to fade them at home, getting plus money on a draw no bet line? I mean, I'm projecting some value on Leicester here, just like I did against Newcastle. I mean, Aston Villa's been off for quite a bit. They have a rest advantage, but they haven't been that impressive under Steven Gerrard. I don't think that we can just sit here and say that Aston Villa has completely turned things around. I mean, they're one of the worst pressing teams in the Premier League. That's how you beat Leicester. So they're going to provide no resistance to them. Leicester, they've lost the expected goals battle in their last 2 matches, but you kind of have to look at game state too, because they went ahead early against Newcastle and they went ahead early against Everton, and they created a ton of chances against Everton. A lot of them just weren't that high of quality. I mean, James Maddison, I thought, had a fantastic game today. So I definitely lean towards Leicester draw no bet at even money. I'm projecting some value on it, but I have to wait until a lineup comes out because I can't play something if they're just going to rotate and play the B team and save everybody for Roma on Thursday.
All right, let's put those.
I'll be betting Roma on Thursday. We'll talk about that. I'm loading up. I'm saving my money here. I'm not going to bet it. Like BJ said, bad number. Villa road favorite against Leicester. Like I can't quite get there, but Thursday. Yeah, I think Roma's on the road too, so might even get a good number.
You get him 2-1 right now.
Yeah, I'm going to probably put that in after the show. Right, maybe not money. What's the draw no bet plus 120?
1 second.
This is riveting audio for everyone listening.
Well,
yep, plus 120 on the draw no bet line for Jose Mourinho's red hot Roma.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, Anthony?
No, I've got nothing on this, man. I mean, it's like Saturday at 10 a.m. I'm not going to watch soccer. I mean, I'll be gathering information.
Watch the Bundesliga.
But I'll be watching I mean, it's a great Bundesliga card, so I'll be tuned in there. But I just like Leicester City, unlucky, I guess you could say today to not win, but they also got dominated the entire second half, similar to the Newcastle match. Yes, they conceded 2 stoppage time goals that turned 4 points into 1 in the sense that they lost to Newcastle and then lost to or tied Everton today, but they didn't deserve results in either of those games. So I'm not going to say like their luck is turning against them and like they're kind of evening out in the regression point of view because they played badly and everything they created came on quick strike stuff. And it's just hard to get against Villa. So yeah, I don't have a strong opinion here.
The 12:30 p.m. kickoff is Brentford. They're plus 310 hosting Spurs. Odds on -110. The draw is plus 260. Brentford. They're continuing to roll. They were off in the midweek. They're 3-0-0 in their last 3. 8 goals for, 2 goals against, 6.4 expected goals, 3.03 expected goals against. Spurs finally ran into their defensive regression that was coming against Brighton. Didn't score, and Brighton were full value for that win. So hats off to them. And just since Christian Eriksen has come to Brentford, the new Brighton, they're 5-0-2 win draw loss with 14 goals for, 7 goals against, and a plus 0.45 expected goal differential. And now he gets to play his former team. We've talked about it a lot on the show. Brentford, terrific at home. And Spurs, like they're still running hot offensively. Like there's still regression to come for this team. And this is just a tricky spot. Brentford punch up really, really well. They have wins over Chelsea. They have a win over Arsenal and a draw against Liverpool, a close one against City, a close loss. So yeah, I have no problem taking Brentford at over 3-1 at home here. BJ, back on the Bees.
Absolutely. Speaking of strong opinions, I love Brentford in this spot. So they have been, we've talked about it a ton of times, but they've been so good at the Brentford Community Stadium. But not only that, they've been really good against the top 7 teams in England, plus 1.7 expected goal differential against the top 7 at the Brentford Community Stadium. The thing that I like about this matchup for Brentford is they tend to struggle when they play teams that can press them successfully and at a high rate. So they're going to face a Tottenham team that is really providing no resistance whatsoever right now. I mean, they only had a 23.5% pressure success rate against Brighton this past weekend. I mean, Brighton held 52% possession, outshot them 12-5, 23 touches in the penalty area, barely 13 for Spurs. They absolutely deserved all 3 points against Tottenham at home. And I think it's just a story of negative regression hitting Tottenham when it really should. I mean, we talked about it last week, 21 goals off of 13.2 expected. I mean, this is what happens. So this is another spot where I believe that negative regression is going to continue because Brentford's just been in incredible form, and the expected goals numbers back that up, plus 3.5 expected goal differential in their last 6 matches. So I can't even get close there on the number. I have Tottenham projected at plus 150. So I love Brentford plus half a goal at minus 105.
And I think we see this in betting across all sports. There is a must-win text. This is a must-win game for Spurs. It's a meaningless game, in the grand scheme of things for Brentford. You'll see it a lot of times when teams are maybe down like 2-0 in a best of 7 playoff series. If they go down 3-0, the series is basically over, and bookmakers know that people will say, oh, they're not going to go down 3-0, and we'll bake that into the price. And I think that's what's happening here with Tottenham. Bookmakers have baked in that people know that Spurs need to win this match, at the very, very least get a draw to keep pace with Arsenal and keep United at length here, or touching distance in the race for the top 4. So I think that's why we're getting a decent number here on a informed Brentford team. Like usually when teams are in this good of form, we'll start to see bookmakers overreact. Not the case here. Anthony, are you going to do it?
Yeah, I'm on the bees. I have to play it at my number. I only make Spurs plus 130. Not quite, as down on them as BJ is. Hater, but yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
yes, confirmed hater. Yep.
But Brentford at home this year, I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Put the numbers behind it. They're plus 0.62 at home this year. Expected goal difference. That's since January 1. You take it back the entire season, plus 0.6. So they've been pretty steadily, consistently good at home. And we even talked about this. Like they had the drop off for sure in performance that led probably through the winter months, where they just weren't quite as good defensively, and they struggled. They had some injury issues. They've come out of that looking well. They started playing better, and then the results came a few weeks later after a couple unfortunate, unlucky losses. But you get into the numbers, right? Their actual goal difference at home is actually negative, which is insane to think about when you consider how well they played at home. And then we go to Tottenham on the road, and this is headlined by the Villa win 2 weeks ago. Tottenham away from home this season. We'll say just Antonio Conte time, because I don't really acknowledge the Nuno Espirito Santo era as relevant anymore, but plus 0.24 expected goal difference away from home. So still good, like a pretty good Premier League team. But again, how well have they run? Defensively conceding about 1.35 XG per 90. So the defense has not traveled that well. The attack has traveled. The defense is not. They're still conceding about a third goals, and they've only actually conceded about 1 goal. So some regression coming there for the defense. I don't hate a Brentford team total as well. You're not going to get a good BTS number, but that would be a way to play this. But I'm playing the Bees plus a half. Don't hate them on the money line as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really tight top 4 race. This could be the weekend that the pendulum swings back toward Arsenal. And then we'll get one more swing in the next couple of weeks before we get the big showdown on May 12th. I'm very excited for it. And it's basically 50-50 at this point. If you look at 538, they've got it 50-49. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't checked the odds on what the top 4 race is. I don't think they're up right now because of what just went down today. But nevertheless, it's going to be a crazy final few weeks between that and the title race.
And the relegation battle, but we will talk.
And the relegation battle.
No, the relegation battle's over.
And look, we've all got dogs in the fight. We've all got something.
That ball went in the back of the net from Charleston today. In my mind, I said, that's the goal that keeps Everton up.
We'll get to that because there's a chance that Burnley is 2 points ahead of Everton by the time they play Liverpool on Sunday. All right,
let's chance. Absolutely.
Of course. Before we get there, 9 a.m. on Sunday, Chelsea minus 190, West Ham plus 550. The draw here is plus 330. Chelsea had just a wild match against Arsenal in which they lost and just came undone. And you do wonder if after everything they've been through the season, from on the field, off the field, the fact that they played Champions League final, a lot of their players that went to the Euros, it's maybe everything is just going to catch up to them, and they'll just say, we're on the beach. 3rd place is good. We'll focus on the FA Cup final in a couple of weeks and hope that they get their silverware that way. Since January 1st for West Ham, they are completely mediocre. 6 wins, 5 losses, 3 draws in 14 matches, 18 goals for, 18 goals against, and their expected goals is basically bang on as well. So this is just a team that wins one, loses one, draws one, wins a couple, loses a couple, and it is a tough spot for West Ham. I think if West Ham didn't have their match coming on Thursday against Frankfurt, a Europa League semifinal, which is a huge deal for them, I would be a little bit more interested. But both these teams in these weird spots makes this one a pass for me, and I could see it going off the rails pretty quickly because both of these defenses look a little out of sorts. BJ, anything here? Chelsea and West Ham.
Yeah, I actually like Chelsea on the spread -1 and -105. I mean, it was a bad performance today from Chelsea. I mean, there's no denying that. But this is a really good spot for them. They've been, like you mentioned, they've been playing a ton of soccer. So it's not shocking that, you know, they're essentially coming off of a FA Cup semifinal win over Crystal Palace on the heels of a 3-2 win in Madrid, that they were going to have a little bit of a letdown spot. Well, here's a great rebound spot against a West Ham team that really just hasn't been good at all. I mean, they had a good performance against Burnley after they went down. I thought Burnley was the better team for the first half of that one. That West Ham, once they went down, they kind of kicked it into high gear, created 2.8 expected goals. That was only the second time in their last 11 matches that they've created over 2 expected goals. So the offense that we fell in love with the first half of the season just isn't there right now. I mean, they're only averaging 1.05 expected goals per 90 minutes since January 22nd. And their defense hasn't been good either over that time frame. 1.4 expected goals allowed per match. And to make matters worse, they're going to go into this match without their best defender, Kurt Zouma, and Issa Diop is out. So that means either Declan Rice or Vladimir Soufal or somebody else is going to have to play out of position at center back against the third best offense in the Premier League. So I have Chelsea spread projected at -1.23. So this is just a value play for me. I like Chelsea -1 at -105 because they're not set in stone in third place right now. I mean, if they trip up here, it gets a tad interesting if both Arsenal and Tottenham win this weekend.
Yeah, I guess that's, it's true. Like, but they
this could seal it. Like if they win this one, they pretty much seal it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're fine, but I'm worried the wheels may come off.
Yeah, I think at some point for example, I think Everton has a game against Chelsea a week from Sunday, and I think that's a good break for Everton scheduling wise to catch them then, because then they should have everything kind of set for next year in terms of the Premier League. Anthony, you're fading both defenses, which does seem like a pretty good idea on the surface here.
Yeah, Chelsea, I mean, Chelsea defensive regression, they have fallen off a cliff defensively. I mean, what the hell is going on? Like, I didn't think it'd be this bad, but Brentford 4 goals, Real Madrid 5 over 2 legs. Granted, it was only like 2.5 expected, but still a lot of weird miscues going on at the back. And then today, I mean, 3 goals plus the late penalty that I'm still not sure how it was called, but it's over, 1.5 non-penalty XG for Arsenal. So some major red flags. And what's the motivation for this Chelsea team to continue this incredible defensive run they were on for the last year? They win the Champions League. They put up these historically good defensive numbers. They have a little bit of a blip. They right the ship. Now they're kind of coasting. I mean, they have 1 match left this year that probably has a lot of meaning, and it's the FA Cup final. It's a chance for them to get a trophy, and I expect them to be building towards that for the next few weeks. But I mean, this Chelsea team could be going off of a cliff, and West Ham has already fallen. I mean, they are hanging around for 6th. I think they may nip it because of United's malaise, but this West Ham attack has fallen off a cliff. And that was one thing I was talking about, weeks ago and saying, like, I'm concerned about them. Well, I think this game is one of those classic Prem games when you get down toward the end of the season, both defenses are a little bit off. Like you mentioned, Diop and Zouma are both out. I think this game has the potential to be very open, and I project value on the over to begin with, even though I'm not particularly high on the West Ham team at all. I do think Chelsea's attack with Werner has more punch to it generally. Their defense is regressing. I project 2.72 goals, and I'm going with the over 2.5. It's my best bet this weekend.
Another 9 a.m. kickoff. This one is a big one. Burnley, they're +190, hosting Wolverhampton, +170. The draw here is +205. We are recording this on Wednesday night, as we always do, which means we haven't had the luxury of watching Burnley Southampton. But as it stands right now, Burnley 4 points behind Everton, with the two of them have the same goal differential and same games played. Obviously, Burnley will have one more game played than Everton as we go into the weekend. it's a big spot for Burnley because Everton's playing Liverpool at Anfield, where they're 14-1 underdogs. We'll talk about that one in a little bit. And Wolverhampton are one of these few teams in that mushy middle where they don't have much to play for. And Wolves they've been inconsistent, 8-0-6 in their last 14, 20 goals for, 14 goals against. If you look at the expected goals, you flip it. It's 14 expected goals for, 20 expected goals against. Incredible. Yeah, there's always going to be a team
every
or
once
two.
in a while.
There's going to be a team or two every year, like that. Just do this. And Wolves and Leicester this season are those teams, and Spurs a little bit. But Burnley, the problem here is that Burnley's defensive metrics have just been a real just zoo. 2.26 expected goals against per match in their last 3. That includes the Everton match, West Ham, and Norwich. That West Ham match was the first one without Sean Dyche, and they still were giving up chances left and right. So I don't expect them just to get better defensively. They're going to have endeavor. They're going to be gritty and tough to play against because they're going to play hard and they're fighting for their Premier League survival. But they're still giving up way too many chances. That West Ham game, yeah, sure, West Ham was lucky to not be 2-0 down, but at the end of that match, we talked about it. Nick Pope's made 2 huge saves, and otherwise we're talking about a very different look here. Also, it's Burnley's 5th game in 18 days. Wolves have been off for quite a bit. So since April 8th, so almost 2 weeks by the time this game, or more than 2 weeks by the time this game played. So there are some signals here that point away from Burnley, but it's the Wolves regression numbers they're frightening me away from a bet here. Meanwhile, Anthony, you've turned into a huge Burnley fan all of a sudden and are back on him.
Yeah, baby. Cashed on him last weekend. Really should have been up 2-0. Really should have won that game. Then they were hanging on for dear life. I think the lack of Dyche maybe played its role in those final 10-ish minutes, because the Burnley we know would have 11 guys behind the ball. They would be slogging it out. That Burnley team was not doing that. I mean, they were sending 4 or 5 guys forward on the counter. They had a couple of half chances, not really like a clear chance, but then they were getting run up on the counter by West Ham. And, that's where West Ham's most dangerous. So tactically a pretty bad mistake by Burnley that they got away with. I mean, they got off the hook. Good big up Nick Pope for saving the day. I would have been very upset if I had lost. But I'm targeting the Burnley attack here. I don't, like you mentioned, the defensive numbers. I don't have to repeat them. Like, there's major concerns about this defense. They've been terrible all year. They're not luck boxing like they usually do. They're not overcoming their bad XG numbers by blocking a ton of shots or having a crazy good season from Nick Pope. So I don't really want their defense to be involved in this. In fact, I hope they concede a goal or 2 to help my bet. I'm taking Burnley on the team total over 1.5 at plus 215, chasing a bit of a price here. Again, I think Burnley, I liked with in this case, all the aggression they showed at the end of that match last week in a 1-1 game. I like that as a better here against this Wolves defense. They've overperformed by about 20 goals. 10 of that is Jose Sa. Credit to him. The other 10 cannot be explained by good defense, good goalkeeping, or anything. It's just teams taking bad shots against them. Their post-shot XG is way lower than their actual XG allowed. So that's telling you that teams are getting on front of goal against Wolves and then not putting shots on target at the rate they should be. So that tells me that they're, going to regress, and maybe they never will. And look, that's one other thing too. Like, we talk about regression because we're trying to get small edges here on the market, and bounces over the course of a 38 game Premier League season tend to go back and forth and back and forth. It doesn't mean it's going to come this Sunday or that it's ever going to come this year for Wolves. Like you said, there's always 1 or 2 teams that just defy logic, like Brighton in the reverse last year, and now it's Wolves this year. I don't know that it'll come, but at plus 215, I'm willing to take a shot that Burnley is going to open this up and make this a back and forth game, similar to what we saw with Everton, similar to what we saw with West Ham. They're not playing at the typical Burnley grinded out kind of style, and so this could all change depending on what happens tomorrow. But I'm probably going to be locking in over 1.5 at plus 215.
Yeah, I'm with you, Anthony. This is a late ad for me. I didn't put it on the sheet, but I do like over 2 goals is minus 120. Burnley has allowed more than 1.5 expected goals in their last 7 matches. Like, this is, we've mentioned it, but they don't have the luxury of sitting back anymore. That's why you see them just sending guys forward, because a loss doesn't really, the 1 point doesn't really do much for them right now. They need 3 points. So I'm going to wait and see what happens against Southampton on Thursday. If that match gets chaotic, which I have over 2.5 goals, so I hope it does. You'll probably see me be adding over 2 goals at -120 during the match, depending on what kind of tactics Mike Jackson and Ben Mee have all cooked up over there. But I mean, I don't really know what to make of Wolves and where they're at, because they're still fighting. Like they've got a
real good shot at top 7.
They're probably going to be
look
7th.
at their run in. It's not hard.
Yeah, they're probably going to be 7th, and they actually have a little bit of an outside shot at top 6 if United just completely falls off. So, or even West Ham. So it'll be interesting. The last time these two teams played, I remember it vividly because it was during a midweek, and it was maybe the most boring match I've watched in a really, really long time. It was 0-0. Burnley had made no effort at going forward. So that just kind of sticks in the back of my mind, but we're in a different situation now. So any type of over in this game, I think, has a good shot of hitting. So I'll be on over 2.5 goals, or it's over 2 goals at -120, depending on what happens in Southampton, Burnley on Thursday.
Yeah, and you look at the United schedule; they still have a brutal couple of games left. And then you look at Wolves; they still have Burnley, Brighton, and Norwich. They do have to play Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, so they'll probably lose those. But if they were to win 3 games, all of a sudden you're looking at the numbers. You're like, they get up into that range where if West Ham or United cliff dives, which is very possible, then they could be in the mix. They're still motivated.
West Ham has Chelsea, Arsenal, Norwich, Man City, and Brighton left. So
that's a brutal run.
It's both of them have brutal runs. So
they have the Europa League too. So
of course, West Ham has a probably 25% chance of the Champions League just by winning the Europa League, which they're favored to make the final now. So, yeah.
All right, let's head to the South Coast here for a derby between Brighton and Southampton. Like I just said, Southampton plays Burnley on Thursday after we're recording this. Brighton's +120 at the moment. Saints coming back +235 in the draw, +240. Southampton 1-1-4 in their last 6, 4 goals for, 15 goals against, but coming off an impressive one. So they're also like their XG, they're underperforming their XG in that span by 4 goals and 4 goals on offense, 3 goals on defense. So there is some sort of regression coming here, and I think this is a tough spot for Brighton. I know we generally like them. We like them as underdogs, but as a home favorite here against the Southampton team, there's really not that much between these two teams. If you really do break it down, and do you trust Brighton to pull this one off after a game against Arsenal, Spurs, and City in which they won 2? It's and they gave it all in that City first half. It's a natural letdown spot, even if it's a derby, but I just think that this is a pretty good opportunity to sell me your Brighton stock, which we don't like to do here. BJ, you disagree though?
Yeah, I mean, I have Brighton projected -101, so I do have some value on them. I think this price is a tad cheap, if you ask me, for given how good this matchup is for them. I mean, they were bad against Man City for the whole second half today. They were okay for the first half, but they didn't really create much going forward, so you can't say that they were good by any stretch. They were without Basuma, who was on yellow card suspension. He'll be back, I believe, which is huge, obviously, for them. This is just a really good matchup for a team that plays really, really well through pressure. I mean, Brighton's 4th in offensive pass per defensive action and pressure success rate allowed, which is obviously huge against Southampton, who presses at one of the highest rates in the Premier League. But the big thing here is that Brighton is one of the best set piece defenses in the Premier League. They're only around 0.08 XG per set piece. That's 3rd best behind only City and Chelsea. Southampton's become very, very reliant on set pieces. I mean, 36% of the goals have come off of set pieces. They have James Ward-Prowse, who's one of the best free kick takers in the Premier League, so it makes sense. But they've only scored 21 goals from open play this season. I mentioned it, last podcast because the Southampton match hasn't happened yet, but since January 15th, 1.65 expected goals allowed per match, which is 17th in the Premier League. So this is the classic Brighton spot where we have value. We bet them and they win like 2.1 to 0.3 on XG and draw 0-0. But I got to believe in the Seagulls here. I am projecting some value. So give me Brighton +125.
Now we will move on. Main event time. The Merseyside derby at Anfield. Liverpool prohibitive -500 favorites. Everton 14-1 on the 3-way money line. The draw here is +650.
14-1.
I'll be on it as a fan. I'm going to have a little bit of it. But just breaking it down and handicapping it, let's talk about Everton on the road. 15 road matches this season. 1 win, 1-3-11 win, draw, loss. Their last road point came against Chelsea on December 16th. Their last road win came against Brighton on August the 28th. We're just about 4 months away from that being a full calendar year since their last road win. And we know what Liverpool's been up to overall, at home, on the road. Doesn't matter. I do want to say one thing about that Liverpool United match. Liverpool, incredible first half. They took their foot off the gas in the beginning of that second half, gave up a couple big chances, including one by Marcus Rashford that then got struck from the records because it was deemed the flag came up late and he wasn't offside. Alisson made a great save. But it was just like it was another chance that went wasted against Liverpool. And at some point, these are going to catch up to them. Meanwhile, Everton are creating, I mean, these at home, especially, which doesn't, pertain to this particular instance, I guess, considering their splits, but they are creating scoring chances. Richarlison had 2 sitters that he missed today before scoring. Seamus Coleman had a big one. They could have scored 3 or 4 against Leicester, which is why I think, if you look at that match, Everton and Leicester, you could argue win, draw, loss for both those teams would have been a fair result. And usually when you can draw is the one that ends up being what happens. So I think Everton, there's a chance here that they can nick 1 or 2 and make a game of this, especially because I think we're going to see an incredibly conservative setup from Frank Lampard. Yerry Mina's back, so you're going to see Ben Godfrey, Yerry Mina in the back 4 with Fabian Delph right in front of them. He wasn't great today, but and then Alon, he's gonna play 4-4-2 and they're just gonna sit back and lump balls ahead to Solomon Rondon, I'm assuming, and just try to go full Sam Allardyce that way. I guess Liverpool and they do have so much to play for that maybe they frustrate him. That is a long shot, and why it's 14-1 on the money line. Anthony, though, you do have a little bit of faith in the Toffees here.
I have some faith in their attack. I have no faith at all in the defense. I mean, they might get run out here. I think the market's, inflating Liverpool a tad bit. Like I show a tiny bit of value on Everton on the spread, but no thanks, pass. As far as the team total goes, you bet team total over 1/2 -110. I think their attack is underrated with everybody coming back. I think they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Liverpool on the counter attack to try to create chances. And I think they're going to give a more inspired effort than United did. So yes, Liverpool's defense absolutely smothered United. Their midfield's firing on all cylinders right now. Like it could be 4 or 5-1. Like I wouldn't be shocked, but I do think Everton will break through and get 1. They did get 8 shots, about 8/10 of an expected goal, 0.8 XG, and managed a goal in the last match. It was a direct counter attack right up the gut. And I do think they'll have some success there. Enough success to get on the board. Not enough for me to bet the spread though, because I am concerned this could get out of hand.
Yeah, and an interesting spot for Liverpool too. Obviously, it's a big derby, and Klopp won't be rotating, but they do have Champions League to look ahead to, and they've been playing a ton of soccer as well. So, like I said, you can make some arguments for Everton, but they're just they're not on a strong foundation. I would say to be fair. BJ, you squared out over the midweek against United, Liverpool -1.5, and sharped out. Yeah, right back to it here.
Well, I'm a square, so I'm going to square out again here. I don't see how Everton hangs here. I understand they've been better as of late. I mean, plus 0.3 expected goal differential in the last 6 matches is improvement. But I mean, Liverpool is the best team in the world right now. I mean, they've won 13 of 14 Premier League matches, plus 17.5 expected goal differential in those 14 matches. They've won 11 straight at home in the Premier League with a plus 25.9 expected goal differential. It's just insane how good they are right now. I mean, Everton, I've talked about it many times this year. They really struggle when they have to play teams that press high and successfully. I mean, they're 18th in offensive pass per defensive action. Today, they played a Leicester team that doesn't press at a very successful rate. Liverpool has 375 high turnovers this season. That's 68 more than anybody else in the Premier League. Everton has also conceded the second most big scoring chances. Liverpool averages 2.4. big scoring chances per match. And looks like Everton's going to be without Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Andrews Townsend again. So, and Liverpool's fully healthy and able to rotate their squad. So, I mean, I have Liverpool spread projected at -2.5. So -2 at even money. I'm going to square out and I'm going to ride Liverpool until we see them against Villarreal in the midweek.
I cannot wait for that.
Oh, it's going to be great.
So excited. Yeah.
Well, we have a whole other podcast to discuss that one.
And just that game alone might go.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. But we do want to close out the Premier League part of the program with Palace +100 at hosting Leeds +275. The draw here is +265. Monday Night Football returns. I feel like Crystal Palace plays more Monday games than anybody.
Oh yeah,
as they should.
It should be that way. This is a great matchup.
This is a perfect Monday.
I'm glad. I will gladly have a terrible Saturday 10 a.m. slate if it means we get more of these Monday night thrillers between Palace and Leeds. We had a Palace and Arsenal. I remember Palace played a great match with Brighton on a Monday night.
They beat Everton on Monday in the afternoon. Maybe
everybody beat Everton any day of the week. But yeah,
wasn't Istanbul on a Monday as well when they?
It was definitely under the lights.
It was under the lights. I remember.
But
I mean, it probably was a Monday then.
But I mean, Anthony says it. We're talking about two very, 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 very different teams here. Leeds, cocaine ball, a little bit less so under Jesse Marsch, but still cocaine ball. And then Palace and their methodical midfield and slow lumbering offense. So you got an immovable force and an unstoppable object. A poor man's Newton's conundrum, or whoever came up with that one. I don't know what really like that. Leeds has been good under Marsch, but like I don't know if they're going to be. What I should say is this number just looks right. I don't see an angle here, but I do think as a standalone game on a Monday, it should be interesting, and I could see it going much more towards Leeds' tempo, considering they want to secure their spot. Palace very little to play for besides just continuing a great season. So yeah, I'm just kind of gonna sit back and enjoy it. Leeds, they have the highest total goals on average per game this season, and Palace fourth lowest. So really, really interesting just to see how this game actually plays out. Because a lot of times I feel like when these two kind of teams meet up, it's a mess and it just doesn't turn into a good game for neutrals. BJ, what do you have?
I like Palace even money in here. I have them projected at -123. They've lost 3 straight matches. Got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt because all of those were away from Selhurst Park, where something magical is just happening with them this season. +7.8 expected goal differential at home, -6 on the road. I mean, Leeds, I understand they have a new manager, but overall for the season away from Elland Road, they have a -12.3 expected goal differential, which is bottom 3 in the Premier League. They're allowing around 2 expected goals per match away from home. They have been better under Jesse Marsch, but they haven't played the most difficult schedule. I mean, they've played 6 matches against Leicester, Aston Villa, Norwich, Wolves, Southampton, and Watford. They did put up a +2.2 expected goal differential in those matches, but I think we would all agree that Crystal Palace will be the best team that they've played under Jesse Marsch so far. Palace does struggle playing through pressure, which is a concern in this match, and it's one of the main reasons why they lost to Leeds the last time they played them. But Leeds really, really struggles when they play teams that press them back. Crystal Palace presses at the 3rd highest rate in the Premier League, and Leeds is 19th in pressure success rate allowed. So, like I said, I have Palace projected at -123, so I'm showing some value on them. So give me them even money at home.
Yeah, and Anthony, you're thinking that this game is going to play more towards, I guess, the Leeds script than the Palace one.
Yeah, I mean, like Leeds press is more defensive now than it was. I mean, like we should say that, and it's pretty clear in the numbers. The defense has improved, but I think this is going to be a really fun back and forth match between two teams. Don't have a ton to play for. I'm going with over 2.5 goals. Palace at home, their attack is just miles better, and I don't know what's going on either. I mean, like you typically see splits, and you can understand why Palace might have a better numbers at home, but this is so drastic. It's even bigger than Brentford's gap at this point now. It is, which is crazy given how much we've talked about Brentford. They're the two, the London squads that don't want to leave the capital. But I think this game's going to be so much fun. I'm very excited for it. I flex will be in attendance. So I'm also going to be rooting for goals myself. But yeah, I think both attacks, whether it's Leeds getting through and kind of getting healthy finally, they haven't played in 15 days. We've talked a ton about all their injuries. They're finally getting healthy, which I think will help them considerably going forward. Also, Palace, when they do break through that Leeds defensive press, it's more similar to Southampton nowadays than I think anything else with their press, but they're going to allow big scoring chances. And this match probably comes down to whether or not Palace takes those chances. They've had some problems with chance conversion, big chance conversion. It's a main reason they've been an underperformer, a team we've been betting on. Hopefully some of that, goes our way and we get an over here and 2-1 Palace kind of game. But I wouldn't be shocked if Leeds won either. I think there's a high variance kind of game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. All right, let's move to the Bundesliga. We'll start with Der Klassiker. We had a German listener reach out a couple months ago. I had no idea about this, that very few people in Germany referred to this match as Der Klassiker. But we will here. We're American and we don't follow those same rules. But Bayern, they're hosting Dortmund. Bayern minus 250, Dortmund 5.5 to 1. The draw is plus 475. A 9-point difference between these two sides in the Bundesliga table as we get down the stretch. So, must-win game if Dortmund wants to keep their slim hopes alive. And Dortmund, they've been vulnerable for the past since 2022 started, you could say. And I don't think a little sprinkle here on Dortmund is a terrible idea, even with some lineup issues. And I could see this one also, playing out. When you see these two teams, you just automatically think goals. And I think that there might be a way to fade that. And Anthony, you might expand on that.
I mean, I don't want to. I hate this. It's probably my least favorite hold your nose play of the year, but I'm playing under 4 minus 115. I only project 3.69 goals in this match. I have Bayern about a 1.4 goals better, so I don't show any value on the number. I typically bet Bayern in this match, at least the last couple of years when they've been on the road. I bet them because you just get the cheap number on Bayern because they're on the road, but it's like they just dominate this league and they always find a way to win this match, even if they're not necessarily that much better than Dortmund, which is really what happened in the first match at Dortmund. I mean, it was very even. I got a little fortunate to cash Bayern. It was a very controversial penalty decision. It was an own goal in that match that got it to 3-2, but really the expected goals weren't quite on that number, quite a bit lower, in fact. And so this really just comes down to Dortmund because their defensive miscues trying to play through the Bayern press just give Bayern goals every time they play them. And if they just do less of that, I think this game stays under. So of course you're betting on this defense to stop making dumb mistakes, which it's done all year and continues to do, and probably will regret playing this under. But if they score 5 goals and I lose, I'll be damned. I got an entertaining match out of it. But yeah, I'm playing the under 4 and it's an ultimate hold your nose play. Also, from a situational point of view, the trophy's on the line here. Bayern wins, they win the league. They clinch the league title. They have a 9-point gap with 4 to play. So they win this, it would go to 12 with 3 to play. That means it's over. Even if they lost, it's over. Even if they drew, it's over. But it would be officially over if Bayern were to win this match. So definitely Dortmund will not want to be the team to let them have the trophy. So Bayern will probably win this. Hopefully it's like a 2-1 kind of game and not 3-2 again.
BJ, anything here on this one before we get into the rest?
Yeah, I lean Bayern minus 4.5 at even money, showing about 2% of value on it. Just kind of staying away just because I don't have that much value. I mean, Bayern's won 7 straight against Dortmund. They typically just thrash them. Dortmund's been a big overperformer offensively. I mean, 72 goals off of 54 expected. I mean, that's insane. I mean, Bayern is obviously overperforming as well, but yeah, like Anthony said, Bayern will be up for this match. It'll probably end in a Bayern rout because for whatever reason, the Dortmund miscues just become so much more evident against Lewandowski and company. So leaning towards Bayern minus 1.5, a nice, another square play for me, but ultimately I'll be passing because Bayern has just really something weird's been happening with them the last few weeks with all their performances. Even this past weekend against Bielefeld, I mean, it wasn't like the Bayern ultimate thrashing. They got an own goal. It was 2.2 expected goals to 0.7. Not really what, it's good, but it's not great. So I don't know what's going on with Bayern, but I'm probably going to end up just passing on this match.
All right, let's stay in the Bundesliga and talk about our favorite bets. Anthony, what do you have for us?
Well, by the way, Bayern goes to Mainz next week. So
boy.
If they win the league, we got Mainz and at Wolfsburg on the final day. So we will be fading Bayern the last few weeks of the season. That being said, my favorite bet in the Bundesliga besides the under 4, which is my least favorite bet ever, is Greuther Fürth plus 1.5. You know, I haven't really talked about them much on the pod lately. I feel like we haven't talked about them enough on the pod, but if you follow me in the app, you know, I've still been betting those suckers and they have been cashing tickets lately. I mean, they have played like the 13th or 14th best team in the Bundesliga since December when you look at expected goals. Now, of course, the first half was so bad and they underperformed their XG so much that they have no chance of staying up. It will be back to the Bundesliga 2 for Greuther, but I hope they make it back one day because I had fun with this team and they have had a legitimately good run, right? Since the 7-1 loss to Leverkusen, they've gotten 2 wins. Okay, that's not great, but they've managed 7 draws and they've only had 6 losses. So that means that in their last 15 games since that 7-1 beat down against Leverkusen, when all of us had Greuther, I think they were +2 or +2.5, and we don't talk about that game anymore. Since then, they've been a mid-table Bundesliga side, and Leverkusen, I know BJ got cute, tried to back them last weekend. It didn't quite go to plan, but Leverkusen continues to be a little overrated in my numbers. Like I've got them power rated as the 5th best team. They're in 4th. So you could say like, okay, you know, they don't have that much regression coming, but you just look at the attack and it's like, is Greuther going to give them the transition opportunities they desperately need to create to win this match? They might, but like I'm okay taking the plus 1.5, especially with, and this is the sneaky part, Leverkusen's defense has had a major issue lately. Like they have been conceding a ton of big scoring chances, 1.5 to Wolfsburg, over 1 to Bochum. They were actually probably their best showing in a while against Leipzig last week. But yeah, now they're on the road where they've been much worse. Their defense is actually just 8th best in XG allowed on the road this season. So I'm going to take Greuther plus 1.5. And I think the boys are going to give me one last cash. Looking at the schedule, will I be betting Greuther again this season? No, they got Dortmund at home. So probably one more Greuther run after this. But yeah, we're going to ride the boys.
Man, it's been a fun ride for
I think we all need to do one last group when they play Dortmund.
I'll be in for this
in a couple weeks.
For me, I like Union Berlin. They're 6-1 against the luckiest team in Europe, Red Rasenball Sport Leipzig, RB Leipzig. This is a Saturday, 9:30 a.m. kickoff on in the Bundesliga. I these two teams just played today in the DFB Pokal, and Union goes up 1-0, a penalty, and a 92nd minute winner for Leipzig to continue their unbelievable run of fortune. I like the matchup here. I don't think Leipzig's a better team. That's reflected in the number, but Union is a top 7 defensive team in non-penalty expected goals, shots per 90, big chances allowed, box entries, and their offense is decent at creating big chances, 5th, and Leipzig are only 8th at preventing them. And at some point, we just know that this Leipzig run is going to come down. We don't have to go over. We say it every week. They're outperforming their XG by 14 goals on offense right now and 2 goals on defense, so 16 goals. So back on Union Berlin for me. BJ, what about you in the Bundesliga?
Well, I'll also be on Union Berlin, but I actually like over 3 goals at even money in Freiburg and Gladbach. I mean, the Gladbach defense just continues to leak goals, and it's showing no sign of improvement. They've allowed 13.9 expected goals in the last 8 matches, and they're now at 1.63 XG allowed per match this season, which is 14th in the Bundesliga. Freiburg plays a very different style than most in the Bundesliga. I mean, they play out a 3-4-3. They're a little more defensive. They're actually very, very average from open play, but they are by far and away the best set piece offense in the Bundesliga. 17 goals and 16.7 XG off of them this season. Gladbach, not surprisingly, is the worst set piece defense in Germany. 13.7 XG allowed off them this season. So don't be surprised if Freiburg scores off a corner or a free kick. Offense has still been really good for Gladbach. They're top 6 in non-penalty expected goals and all the other offensive metrics. They've been on pretty good as of late too. 12.7 expected goals in their last 7 matches. Freiburg is a top 6 defense, but they allow a ton of shots. They're 15th in shots allowed per 90 minutes. So I do believe Gladbach will have their chances. And this is a huge revenge spot for Gladbach because Freiburg hung 6 goals on them the last time these guys played at Borussia Park. So I think Gladbach, even though they're in the middle of the table, they're out of any picture for any European spot. I think they'll be up for this one. I have 3.5 goals projected, so I like over 3 goals to even money.
If I ever bet Gladbach again this season, unfollow me in the app. Don't ever listen to this podcast again. I am appalled at the effort that they put out on Saturday in their rival match after they lost 4-1 at Cologne earlier this year. They had a rivalry home match on your home soil, and you get embarrassed by Cologne. And it wasn't even just that, like, okay, Cologne played really well. There was a play where I thought the guy for Gladbach got fouled, but 3 Gladbach defenders did not defend. They just stopped playing and let Cologne run right into the goal and shoot it in for the 3rd goal in the first half. Adi Hütter, you need to leave the job. I'm sorry. This has been
So why hasn't he got fired yet?
I don't understand. I mean, they are short on money because of the pandemic and you know, they were hoping to do a big payout for Elvedi and Ginter for their sales, and Gladbach have basically not had center backs this season. I mean, they went from this team was in the Champions League round of 16 last season, and now they're in the bottom half of the Bundesliga, and the defensive numbers are an embarrassment. And I keep saying, oh, the talent's too good, they're going to improve. Nope. Elvedi subbed off in the first half last weekend. Gladbach, I'm very disappointed in my Foles. I even had my family over, was watching the match. I put my jersey on at 12:28, took it off 12:37. I was just like, this is a joke. We're down in 5 minutes, and they didn't look like they cared defensively. They do not look like they care, and I'm not betting them the rest of the season at all. I don't even know who they're playing. I don't care.
The good news for you here is that they don't play in Serie A, and that's where we're going next. BJ, what's your favorite bet in Italy?
Yeah, going back to Torino, probably one of my favorite teams in Europe this season. This price is a little too cheap for them. I understand motivation. We're gonna have to start handicapping that because Torino is middle of the table, no real shot at a European spot. But plus 9.1 expected goal differential on this season. They're gonna play Spezia, who is now pretty much safe from relegation. They're 11 points from the relegation zone with 5 to play, so they're pretty much safe. But they have the 3rd worst expected goal differential in Italy. They're at minus 25.9 on the year. And this is just such a good matchup for Torino on so many levels. I mean, they're the best pressing team in Italy by pretty much every metric that you look at. Spezia is one of the worst teams at playing through pressure. It was very evident the last time these 2 teams played. Torino had a 38% pressure success rate, pass per defensive action of 7. Spezia also one of the worst defenses in Serie A. I mean, for the season, they're allowing 1.75 expected goals per match. They've been really bad as of late. 16.1 expected goals in their last 9 matches. I mean, the big problem is they just allow way too many shots. I mean, around 17 per 90 to be exact, which is the worst mark in Serie A. So even though Torino is pretty average offensively, I mean, they're 11th in XG. I have no doubt that they're going to be able to create a bunch of chances against one of the worst defenses in Italy that I think is going to lack a lot of motivation, considering that they've got the breathing room from relegation. I mean, I have Torino projected at minus 205, so at minus 145, I'm seeing a lot of value on them at home.
All right, Anthony, your favorite bet in Italy?
Yeah, brutal Italy card. Honestly, all my fade teams are playing each other. We got Juve going to Sassuolo, don't like either team. We got Lazio hosting Milan, don't like either team. All these overrated teams I'm looking to bet against are playing each other. You cannot bet against both teams in the same game, actually, unfortunately. So I will be going back to the tried and true Serie A unders that have no chance in hell. Under 2.5 plus 105, Verona and Sampdoria. I played the under last time these 2 teams played. There was only 1.5 expected goals, but there were somehow 4 goals. It's really been the story of the Verona season, just magicking up some goals. And maybe I'm cursed on this team because I don't like Simeone apparently, and his son plays for them. But Verona for the season now, I'm just going to read off the numbers because they're kind of funny to read out. They have scored 58 goals from 45 expected, and they have allowed 50 from 41 expected. So the goalkeeping has been bad. It's been the main reason they've been under those numbers. But again, unders in that match. And then you look at Sampdoria. I mean, they're even worse defensively. 48 expected allowed, 56 allowed, and then they've scored 40 from 31 expected. They're a bottom 5 attack in Serie A. They just don't create a lot of big chances. And I don't trust them to do so in Verona and what could be a dead game. So I'm going to go under 2.5, like the plus money chance.
No La Liga. That means we go to Ligue 1 and BJ before we get to our underdog parlay, which is a doozy this week. Talk to us about your favorite bet in France.
Yeah, let's go Rennes, -1.5 at plus 130 at home against Lorient. They're in a heated battle to hold on to that third and final Champions League spot. They had a really bad performance on Wednesday against Strasbourg. Only 0.25 expected goals created, but this is a really good get-right spot for them. They're one of the best offenses in France. I mean, they're averaging 1.7 XG per match. They've created the most big scoring chances of anybody in Ligue 1, 51 in 33 matches. They usually play out of a 4-3-3 system, which is very dependent on their wingers, Martin Terrier and Benjamin Boyer, torching opponents down the flanks. And it shows because they're the number one team in completed crosses into the penalty area. That's a major concern for Lorient, who is dead last at crosses allowed into the penalty area. Rennes just really, what they've been done a good job of the season is just dominating lower half of the table. Plus 18.9 expected goal differential against the bottom 10 teams in the league. On Lorient, a decent offense, 10th in expected goals per match. They really struggle when they have to face teams that press at a high rate. They're 17th in offensive passes per defensive action. Rennes, 4th in passes per defensive action. They have the third most high turnovers, and they have the most goals in Ligue 1 off those high turnovers. So I have Rennes spread projected at -1, actually right at -1.5. So I like their spread of -1.5 at plus 130.
All right. Now let's get to it. Our underdog parlay. We've come close a couple times over the past few weeks, and I got to say it. I'll say it right off the top. This is the one. This is the one. Anthony, we'll let you kick it off.
Hey, congratulations, Mauricio Pochettino. Il est magique, tu sais. He is magic. The man has won Ligue 1 with PSG. They said he couldn't do it. They said he wouldn't win big trophies at PSG.
They were -1,400 to win.
They said they didn't win it last year.
It's true.
When Tuchel was running the show for the first half of the season. But yeah, congratulations to them on winning the league. We're fading this week. And look, like Lens plus 900. We're going deep into the barrel for an underdog here. It's not the greatest play in the world, but look, Lens have been in good form. They've won 4 of their last 5 matches, and they're kind of a sneaky, underrated squad of guys. They've run a little bit hot when you look overall at their expected goals compared to their actual goal difference. But again, you're getting like the 7th or 6th best team in France at 9-1 in a classic letdown off the championship spot. This is when you see teams take their foot off the gas, do some rotation. So I'm going to play against PSG, and they're not going to win, but it's 9-1. It's worth a shot.
All right. I'm going with Union Berlin 6-1 against RB Leipzig on Saturday morning at 9:30. These two teams just played a tight cup match in the DFB Pokal. RB Leipzig took that one 2-1 after falling behind 1-0, got a penalty, and then a 92nd minute winner. Their lucky run continues. Since January 1st, Leipzig, a team I keep betting against the losing, they're 10-2-1 win, draw, loss, 35 goals for, 9 goals against, on 21.7 expected goals for and 11.3 expected goals against. They are overperforming by 13 goals on offense and 2 goals on defense. That's 15 goals. At some point, these numbers should come down, and Union Berlin has been a solid team this year, especially defensively, where they rank top 7 in the Bundesliga in non-penalty expected goals per 90, shots per 90, big chances per 90, and box entries per 90. So this is the type of underdog I like to play, a team that can drag themselves deep into the 90 minutes and hopefully come up on the right side of a coin flip should they be able to turn it into one. So give me Union Berlin 6-1. BJ, close it out.
Brentford 3-1. I already mentioned it, but this is a really good spot for a Brentford team that's been in fantastic form. Won 4 of 5. And the expected goals numbers really show that they've played well in those matches. Plus 3.5 expected goal differential. We've talked about it all the time, but Brentford's so much better at the Brentford Community Stadium than they are on the road. Plus 4.8 expected goal differential at home. And they have a plus 1.7 expected goal differential at home against top 7 sides. Tottenham was due for some negative regression. They got it against Brighton this past weekend. They were pretty poor at home. Were deserving 1-0 losers. I think we're going to see some of that negative aggression where they've scored 21 goals off of 13.6 expected over their last 8 matches. So I like Brentford 3-1 on the money line at home to pull an upset over Antonio Conte's men.
Should you? And for this one, you should throw a couple bucks on the 3-leg parlay. That's Brentford, Union Berlin, and Lens, 279 to 1.
Love it.
That's the one that's going to come through for us.
Who's the last leg
here
of that? It's got to be PSG, right?
If you want to get crazy out there, everybody, and you want to do the championship hangover parlay, there's a look ahead line for Mines next week at 5-1. I'm not sure what a parlay of Mines at 5-1 and Lens at 9-1. The championship hangover parlay, who knows? It could come through.
Yeah, that parlay is going to come through. And now we move on to our favorite bets for the Premier League. Anthony, let's start with you. Who you backing?
Yeah, I'm going to go Chelsea, West Ham over 2.5 goals. I'm just really concerned about both of these defenses as we get down toward the end of the season. Chelsea conceding 4 goals to Brentford, 5 to Real Madrid over 2 legs, 4 to Arsenal today, even though it probably should have been 3. Chelsea played so well defensively for so long, and now I think that the pressure is off and that the stakes have come off for this team. They don't really need these matches as much. You're starting to see a letdown in their defensive form, and they're starting to see these mistakes creep into their game that just were not there for so long under Thomas Tuchel. I still like their attack. I mean, I think Timo Werner has brought in a much needed spark, and he's really helped them, add more potency in behind. But also I've got major questions about West Ham, who, while West Ham should be able to find some success on the counter in this match, their defense has really fallen off, conceded over 1.8 expected goals to Burnley. And now without Kurt Zouma and Issa Diop for this match, major concerns defensively, and a look ahead for the Hammers with a potential, or with a Europa League semifinal against Eintracht coming up on Thursday. Just think that this game has the potential to get a little bit chaos and a little bit haywire. So I'm going over 2.5 goals.
I like Brentford plus 310 taking on Tottenham Hotspur over the weekend. Since Christian Eriksen made his debut for the Bees, Brentford are 5-0-2 win, draw, loss with 14 goals scored, 7 goals against, and a plus 4.5 expected goal differential. We've also talked about this team at the Brentford Community Stadium. They are a dynamic home team, plus 8 expected goal differential at home, and it's never a bad idea to back them at a price like this when they're playing in friendly confines. Additionally, this is a team that punches up really well. They have wins over Arsenal and Chelsea on the season, a draw against Liverpool, and played a close one against Man City, and have a positive expected goal differential at home against the best 7 teams in the Premier League. And I also think you're seeing an inflated number here on Tottenham, given the spot. This is a must-win spot for them to remain in touching distance of Arsenal in the race for the top 4. Oftentimes when bookmakers, or when teams are in these must-win spots, bookmakers will bake that into the number and put in a must-win tax. I think that's happening here. So I'll be fading Tottenham, a team that has been running hot offensively for a while, still 8 goals better than their expected goals for over the past few games. So fading Spurs, back in the Bees, 3-1. BJ, take us home.
Arsenal plus 115 at home against Manchester United at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. How can you back Manchester United with how they've looked as of late? I mean, they looked very unmotivated against Liverpool on Tuesday. They got thoroughly thrashed, and really it's an overall picture of what United has been like this season. Their pressing has been off. They're not pressing as a team. They're pressing as individuals, which is a big problem because it leaves them all out of sorts. It leaves so much open area behind them. That's why you saw Liverpool get in behind so many times and thrash them, and all the United defenders pointing at each other like, what's going on? United can get away with that type of stuff against smaller sides, but when they have to play against the big 6, it becomes a real problem. In 8 matches against the big 6, United has a minus 8.7 expected goal differential, and they're allowing 1.7 expected goals per match. So going up against an Arsenal team that got their confidence back against Chelsea on Wednesday, winning 4-2 at Stamford Bridge, I think this is a fantastic spot for the Gunners, who are much better at home than they are on the road. Plus 13.6 expected goal differential at home. United has been very poor away from home, minus 5 expected goal differential, and they're probably going to be without Paul Pogba and Luke Shaw. So I have Arsenal projected at minus 105. So I love my Gunners plus 115 to grab all 3 points.
All right, that wraps up another episode of Wondergoal. For BJ Cunningham and Anthony Dabbundo, I'm Michael Leboff. We will see you on Monday morning to talk about Champions League and more in Europe.